Hey there. You might remember my recap of the first 2 years of Evrima, going over the differences between the contents of the two and where I believe they went wrong, as well as what I think they could have done differently. Well, if you're keeping track of time, you'll know that June 19th marked the 3rd year, just a week ago now. With the disappointing ratings of Year 2 despite it being further into the game's development, it'd be fair to chalk it up as a rocky bump in an otherwise positive progression of the Isle. That being said, let's take a look at Year 3's average score.
I read about did you say want want?
Evrima Update 5 released on July 14th of 2022, just less than a month after we entered the 3rd year. And with it came the skin system, nesting system, QOL features like salt licks, and once again there were changes to the map that added in nesting grounds, easy to spot areas of land that granted you a speed bonus while nesting. While in concept a fine little update, adding in quite a few things that were only in the legacy branch beforehand, it's likely not what people were wanting considering the long wait for the update, which happened right after a long wait for the previous update. It was also the beginning of what I like to refer to as the frame-pocalypse. Performance was at one of its lowest points since release. Complete FPS killers appeared like Northwest and Center due to being the map's newer hotspots, and it was the beginning of the single worst wave of hackers that Evrima had ever faced. This was an average 2.59 star rating, and there were no other patches until the next update. Or should I say the next patch, because not even the devs thought that the night vision update was worthy of having a trailer. The complete overhaul of nighttime and introduction of special night vision was apparently less important than interactive water and Juviraptor being able to pounce things, and you know what? I can't blame them for thinking that, since of all the mechanics yet to be released, night vision was definitely the one that people asked for the least out of all of them. Hell, to this day, people still talk about it and why they believe that an aesthetic night works better for the game overall. Not only did it release with no new playable, but there were also dozens, maybe even hundreds of complaints from the community of dizziness from the first iterations, even going as far as to suggest it would be dangerous to the epileptic. I myself actually received my first headache in years from watching someone stream it on Discord for only 10 minutes and needed to lay down. This was also after the countless complaints about the visual style from its testing phase from both stress testers and casual players. It's needless to say that the community was not happy. Luckily, a week later in the next devlog, this was acknowledged. Most likely not because they only now realized it was an issue or that people just didn't like the new system, but more so because the backlash was unavoidable once the community at large got their hands on it. On September 13th, a new patch released with the updated night vision, which the community seemed to be a lot happier with. Unfortunately, the damage to Dondi's ego had already been done, and even a whole year later the petty loser would mock those who made the complaints about night vision's dizziness and imply that it was completely made up. Despite the improvements, this era of the game received an average star rating of 2.17, the lowest of the year, and rightfully so. They stopped posting their smaller patches on their Steam page, but I managed to find another patch a week after the upgraded night vision came out. Apart from that, there was nothing for months. It was now December, the hacker problem was getting worse, mixed packing was becoming more and more common on officials, and people were expecting something good in time for Christmas. This is when, on December 24th, Update 6 released to the public. This was probably the biggest mess of a major update that I've ever seen. It gave players nothing new to do or test for Christmas time, and there were masses of complaints on all platforms. Even if the backpedaling on the new map and migration system didn't happen, people were still going to be incredibly sour after a whole year without a new playable edition. Hell, I was sour enough to make almost an entire video dedicated to what would have happened if they actually gave us some. I also received the most views I'd ever gotten on a review for one of these game updates. Got a very positive reception too. While maybe not the worst update the game has seen, it was definitely the most disappointing for a lot of players. The hacking, mix packing and mega packing problems were probably at their worst for almost half a year, and it ended up with a rating of 2.2 stars. As usual, no patches for months, and just as the next update was closing in, it became the 20th of June, update 6.5 being mere days away. This leaves year 3 of the Isle of Evrima with 5 patches, 1 being a minor update and 3 being major updates that did bring someone to mechanics, but not the extra content that makes those mechanics worthwhile, like a night hunter for night vision, or an actual reason to nest other than being bored. It had no new playables and a pathetically low star rating of 2.32 as said at the start of the video. I don't really have much to say, to be honest. Being an Isle player was just kind of sad, and the most depressing thing about it is that 6.5 alone would have lifted it up by quite a bit considering these numbers. However, you can potentially see this as a positive, as it means that year 4 could be the best year for the game so far, with a new map, Elders, perks, Diabloceratops, Dilophosaurus, maybe even Herrerasaurus, T-Rex and Triceratops, all coming before the next June 19th, with a pretty positively received update to kick it off already. We'll just have to see, and if I even still care by the time that happens, I'll definitely be there to cover it. Thanks for watching, people. Goodbye.